Here's the principle you did, whether you realized it or not. I want guys to get this. I want the churches to understand this, not just pastors, but anybody in leadership. There are two kinds of decision making, two kinds of things that need to happen in every church, particularly a medium to small size church. One of them are those formal decisions. The other are the informal. Now, we're talking about business meetings today and trying to keep unity. If you try to move something that is historical, like Bert's describing to us, we're going to come back to that. But you take something like that, if he had not done anything informally to start helping them make a decision, and he had simply come back to the church in a business meeting to try to ask them to remove the pews and to put chairs there, he would have ignored the informal process. Almost always in churches, you have to have both. Now, sometimes, let me just throw this little piece in. Sometimes it's something that needs to happen, that needs to be presented and only presented for discussion. We have in our heads, hey, we got to make a decision on this, but we don't need to be forcing things sometimes. Sometimes we need to bring things up, let it be discussed, let people kind of go back and forth, and I don't like this, I don't like that, get feedback, but just tell them from the beginning, we're going to just discuss this. We're not going to make any decisions today. We're just going to consider it for the future. So you get their feel about it in the business setting, but you're not forcing a decision. Now, what happens is after that meeting, man, people get on their phones and they're texting back and forth and they're making phone calls and they're talking down at the coffee shop, or if you're in a country church, it may be up at the corner feed store, wherever it is, right? But you have stimulated this informal conversation. So people start thinking about what was discussed. And what inevitably happens is they begin thinking, well, but I can see their point. Well, I can see their point. And they start processing that informally. Then in the proper time, you come back to a formal decision. You have to have both, informal and formal. Okay, I interrupted you. Now, pick back up where you were. You really have done well creating the opportunity for them to start taking ownership of what needs to happen. So informally, they have begun to discuss, this is a pain. I'm tired of unbolting the pews. I'm tired of lifting, moving, carrying. Okay, so pick up the story right there.
Well, more than anything, it's we don't want to abandon where we're headed just because it's convenient not to unbolt pews. We as a church loved where we were headed with this evangelism outreach and with the teaching that we were learning, with having the Passover Seder. Our church loved having that, and they loved that more than they loved the fixed seating.
Okay, so they had the history, they knew what had happened in the past, but they started getting a vision for what the church could be and could do, and right. That started becoming, in their mind, a little bit of a barrier.
Right.
Which you're encouraging, obviously. So, but I mean,
absolutely.
I don't get the idea that you were agitating, but you were just allowing it to unfold.
I would say it also helped whenever I'm down there unbolting the pews myself and lifting them and helping them. They're right. Seeing that I'm in this too. Listen,
right.
I don't like doing this any more than you do, but I'm willing to continue to keep these pews in here if that's what you want, but we're not going to abandon these events and so forth. So I'll get in here and work with you, but it's just going to be a pain for all of us. So we back-breaking events, and after about the second or third time, guys were like, hey, listen, we've got to make a change. We really do see now we can't have this stuff in what we call the fellowship hall. It's got to be in here because this is the largest space. And we don't have the $1 million to build another building. We've got to make best use of this. So then it became their idea. They proposed it. They get to choose the colors. And whenever they owned it, then it's not a problem in a business meeting.
Okay, so now when you took it to the business meeting, bring us to that point. All this stuff has happened informally behind the scenes. There's been discussion. Now, when you start moving toward the business meeting, how did that happen? Did you have some kind of committee structure or council? Did you have leadership? Did it have to go through a certain group and then come to the church, or was it just kind of thrown out on the floor? How did that take place?
I think we had a church council back then. I'll tell you another thing that helped a whole lot in getting chairs. And that is most chair companies will actually mail you a sample. And so what we did was we ordered 3 or 4 sample chairs from different companies. This is ruthless, I know. But we put those sample chairs in our senior adult Sunday school class where they met. And they started liking those padded chairs. It was a whole lot more comfortable than the folding chairs they'd been sitting in. So they liked those padded chairs for their Sunday school class.
Well, and the padded chairs were probably still a lot better than sitting on the pews, weren't they?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
So they're like, we like the chairs. I'm like, well, that could be what we sit on, because this is exactly, and it also helped to say, listen, they're going to be in a line, just like a pew. They fit together. So when they're all put together, it looks like a pew. You know, I guess the Forerunner chairs years ago didn't look as pewy as these did. So you can still have kind of the look of the pew, but the function of chairs. And just to kind of slowly help them realize the chairs aren't evil. As a matter of fact, they're comfortable. They look like pews when you keep them in a straight line. So just help to give them small taste of it, little bits at a time.
Okay, so when you came to the business meeting, remember we're talking harness the history as you forge into the future. So you've used both the informal, now it's moving to the formal decision making. People are going, we like the padded chairs. We're sitting on those. We like those. Hey, we're tired of moving these pews in and out, et cetera, et cetera. Now you come to the formal decision making time. Describe that for us and tell us how that went.
Well, I think because at this time the church had been bathing everything in prayer, they really wanted to see God at work. If we're really going to do this, if we're going to have a word from the Lord that we should get rid of these pews, it's okay to get the chairs. And, I honestly believe God cares about all the details of life. And this to him was not a stupid, silly decision, because we're his kids and we really care. And so we had asked him, Lord, please show us, is this the right thing to do? Well, it wasn't long after we're all thinking and praying about this that there was a church and an association not too far from us that had a vehicle run through their worship center and busted all their pews apart. And they were looking for pews to put into their building. And we're like, God, that is us. We're the ones that are supposed to give this church our pews. And we contacted them. I believe we had already said, you know what? Yeah, here's what we want to get. So we just decided, hey, these are the chairs. Here's our pews. They took the pews. We got the chairs in, and we got to see God at work, because it was a blessing for that church, because they had no idea. I mean, where are you going to get 30 pews from overnight? Well, that's just a God thing. So our church got to see God work through all of this.
So even in the business process, the business part of it, the business meeting, you did see continued unity. You were still focusing on the future. You were still moving toward the future. There was a vision for the future. So when you came down to the actual business meeting time, you were able to, one, approve getting chairs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then not just approve getting chairs, but also approve being able to help another church.
Right, just to give them away. People were like, do we sell them? Do we donate them? What do we do? Well, God gave us that answer. here's what you're going to do. You're going to give them to this church. So
Right.
all that timing worked out, that God just made everything fit together.
Yeah. Okay. So our principle today that's helping us guide through church business meetings and continue to maintain unity, it really doesn't happen in the business meeting. I mean, it ultimately does, but when we harness our history as we forge into the future, there's so many things we have to look at in the past. We have to look at what's happened in the past. We have to acknowledge that. The other principle we brought up is both the decision-making, both informal decision-making and formal decision-making. We need to have both. Rarely, if we just try to do the formal decision-making, do we not have some friction, some tension in the process of that. Bert, thank you for sharing this with us today and helping us to see in real life how this has happened and impacted your church when you were pastoring there. That's been a number of years ago now, but how that happened and unity continued in the church because of these very things.